had the fortune of sitting in on a pitch competition recently where I had the opportunity to listen to about 5 or 6 different companies pitch their idea as part of an accelerator that they had been accepted to. They weren't necessarily pitching for investment at that time, but they were pitching to contacts, investors, people like me who are service providers, just people in the community who really know what's going on. And I have to be honest with you, I actually left early. I was through about the third pitch when I decided that it was kind of a bit of a waste of my time. And why do I say that? Well, this is a little bit harsh, but those pitches were terrible. They were really terrible. Let me give you some examples of some mistakes that those founders were making. And I want you to use this information to improve a pitch that you may have to make. By the way, I'll put in the description a link to a blog post I wrote on this same topic recently, and it goes a bit deeper into some of these examples of what makes a terrible pitch and a few things that will make for a great pitch. And when I talk about a pitch, I'm not talking about the pitch presentation itself, not the document. I'm talking about the voiceover that the founders provided. The first example I want to give you is when the very first, and actually every presenter afterwards came on and would literally say, "I'm so excited to be here with you today." Now, when you're pitching, when you're presenting anything, you are telling a story. And when you tell a story, the idea is to get people excited about what you're talking about. If you come on and you tell the crowd and listeners that you are so excited to be with you today, that's not very exciting at all. It's really hard to tell that you're excited. So if you're really excited, you should be really excited. You should have a lot of energy, a lot of passion about what you're talking about, not a monotone voice and telling everyone that you're glad to be there today. Okay, so I hope you get the point. Be really excited. Be really excited to be there and be so excited to share the story of what you are doing that you just can't wait to get this information in their hands and that you just know that they're going to want to hear what you have to say. Okay, so be excited. If you're going to be excited, really be excited. Make sure it's clear that you are excited. Another mistake that they were all making was using lots of acronyms. These startups were all within a given sector that I would call life sciences or biotech, and they were presenting information about their solution. And so what happens when you have folks in the scientific realm is they're very smart. And so they tended to use a lot of acronyms. Now, what you have to understand is the audience was not all scientific based. As a matter of fact, you should always think about your audience when you're presenting. And so they were using tons of acronyms that meant nothing to most of us. So a lot of us would probably admit that we were getting lost what they were talking about. I understand that acronyms help you sort of say some repetitive things faster or more easily for the presenter. An example of an acronym would be JSON. What JSON is it's a JavaScript essentially, and it's used by programmers. Yeah, I don't even know exactly what it is myself, but be careful using acronyms. You'll lose your audience if they don't know what you're talking about. And then on top of that, too many acronyms really starts to sound silly. I don't know if you've ever seen a presentation with too many acronyms, but they would just go on and on and on with acronyms to the point where you just, at that point, could care less about what they're talking about. So avoid acronyms. At least if you're going to use an acronym, spell it out first. You should, by the way, do the same thing in any written documentation. So the first time you use the word JSON in a document or in a presentation, you should spell out exactly what that is. Then moving forward, you can use the acronym, hopefully. Another, and probably the biggest mistake that I saw on these presentations was just being too technical. Now, I mentioned to you that these folks were all in life sciences and biotech. It's okay to be a technical founder, but oftentimes in my experience, the technical founders do the worst job presenting. A lot of times that is because they are so technical, they are so intelligent and wrapped up in their scientific solution that they have a hard time communicating these things in very simple, non-scientific matters. So what these founders were doing is they were talking about extremely technical solutions, and they had a hard time breaking that down into what I would call layman's or just regular person's terms. So be careful. If you're a very technical person, you may not be the right person to do that presentation. You may not want to do it, actually. You may have a more business or marketing minded individual present your presentation for you. I've even seen it, and although it's preferable that the founders do the presentation, I have seen it to where a non-founder individual does the presentation, maybe your salesperson or something like that, someone who's very well spoken and is good at presenting ideas and very simple matters. The same thing with these technical terms and acronyms goes together. Basically, you're going to lose your audience because they don't follow you. They don't understand what you're talking about. The next mistake I saw actually happened only with a few of them. So a couple of the presenters did a good job, but so anyways, lots of ums and staggering as they were presenting their information. Now, listen, I don't pretend to be the best public speaker that there is. I need sometimes to slow down. I need to enunciate better. I need to have more flow to my speaking, but I try not to use ums and other words to fill silence. If you need to fill silence, just wait. Don't even fill the silence. Just wait and make up your mind what you're going to say and continue on. There's no reason to fill that void with ums over and over. I once watched a presentation where within 30 seconds, someone said 16 times. Okay. So try and practice your presentation. If you're nervous, that's okay. If you're so nervous, we're back to, as the founder, you probably shouldn't do your presentation, but try not to fill blank spaces with words like Another example of what I saw that made for terrible pitches was just poor storytelling. The flow of the presentation, the flow of the voiceover, so the spoken part of the presentation just didn't really tell a story of why they created this solution and the pain point it was solving in the world and why they just needed everyone to hear about it. So we had some poor storytelling. The great thing is that some founders recognize that the pitch is very, very important, not just the pitch deck, but also the spoken or the verbal part of the presentation. And some of them will be smart about this and use other companies to help them get ready. So for example, I once did a gig for a company called Refi Media. Sarah actually is the CEO there. By the way, congratulations to them. I just learned that they won an award recently. And I worked with them as they worked with a startup in helping that startup get ready for their presentation. So not only did we work on the deck itself, but we spent time together on calls like this with the founder, who was very technical, but very well spoken. And we just worked with him on some of these things, on being less technical in his terms, less acronyms, less filling his space, building a story so that it made sense. So some founders recognize that this is a challenge and they will hire people to help them get ready to make these pitches. So if you want to see more in depth or some writing around these ideas and a couple of other things that make for terrible pitches, plus a couple of positive things that make for great pitches, I'll put a link to the recent blog post in the article. Until next time, I hope that helps. And I hope you find your voice. Have a great day.